I wanted to start with the breaking news that's just come out before we went live in relation to Arsenal today, and that is that they've got the deal done for the young centre-back, 20 million euros. So what is that going to be? About 16, 17 million pounds. Christian Mosquera will be an Arsenal player, their new backup essentially at the back. But a lot of hype in Spain about this individual. Arsenal got it done. Jamie, what's your thoughts on that? You live near Valencia. Is that where you live?
I
in
live
Spain
in
as well?
Valencia. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Right.
Yeah. I've seen him a few times. I go to the Valencia games. I've been to about 4 or 5 this year, and yeah, he's good. I think like with him going into Arsenal, it's more a case of he's going to be a backup more or less. You know what I mean? In with Gabriel and Saliba there, but I think you're bringing in someone who's young, up and coming, good on the ball. He'll probably sit into that Arsenal defense nicely. So yeah, I think it's a good sign, especially for the money. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at like Liverpool maybe potentially going after Mark Gahey. I know he's a bit more experienced, but like there's talk of say 50 million, so you're getting him for less than half that. So it is good value in terms of bringing them in. But for Arsenal, I keep on saying it, even whether it's Madueke, Mosquera, like the main thing is that they're getting the Gyökeres deal over the line. And if they're getting that, they're getting Mosquera, Madueke. Like even the Madueke deal, there's been a lot of criticism to that. But like if they were to bring in, say, Gyökeres, Zubamendi, Rodrigo, and then they go out and get like Madueke on top of that, then that's not a bad signing because you're bringing in someone that can help the team, especially with Saka, the injuries he had last year. So, yeah, I think it kind of is adding up now for Arsenal. They're strengthening the team, they're strengthening the starting 11, they haven't like added players to the bench. So it's starting to become a good transfer window, I think, for Arsenal so far. So Mosquera will definitely help that as well.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of it, George? I mean, you were on a lot of shows with me last year, and Arsenal fans consistently on the terrace talking about the summer isn't just about a number 9, and we'll get onto Gyökeres later. It was about backup in defence, backup in midfield, backup for Saka, backup goalkeepers, etc. They've kind of addressed all of those areas now in requirements for backup. Zubamendi's in. Eze is a deal that looks like it's going to happen, and Gyökeres. I mean, I know the Noni deal has triggered them and upset them. But yeah. I don't know about you, and I know you hate Arsenal, you're a Spurs fan, but do you think it's as bad a window as some gooners online are saying it is?
I'll be honest. I don't think it's as bad as many people are saying, because like you said, they've improved their depth. Some of the biggest problems Arsenal had last season is when they had all the injuries, it was, our second options aren't good enough. Our depth options, the guys coming off the bench aren't good enough. Now you're looking at a team where you've got some of those players that are not like massive like first team level competing players, but you've got a step up. So Noni Madueke on the bench is a step up from some of the other players they had available on the bench. To be fair, most of the depth options that you would consider, like a Gabby Jesus for the right wing and so on, they were all injured as well. So instead of Waneri, you've now got Madueke, and then you've got Waneri who can be an option for Odegaard in the middle. I don't know anything about Mosquera, so how he's going to come into that Arsenal team, not too sure. I've always felt like Arsenal defensively are more than covered. They've got plenty of players that can play multiple positions. So I don't really think that this was a signing that was needed. But quite clearly, we know Arteta, a very defensive and pragmatic manager. He wants to shore himself up at the back to ensure that he's got all those positions covered. Now, how this is going to improve them, I don't think it's going to be too much. Like Jamie said, I think the Gyökeres deal is where the focus is, and that's where the big improvement comes. Like I think even without all these other signings, Gyökeres could be the difference between them being title challengers or not, because he's just that type of player who's going to score and win you a lot of games. So when I'm looking at all these other signings, I'll be honest, I don't think it is a good window for them. I don't think they've made enough good moves, and Zubamendi's a good one, but away from that, I think the other signings are a bit underwhelming. But Gyökeres and Zubamendi are two massive coups that definitely improve your first team. So when you're looking at that, all those other players you don't really need to worry about. The only concern would be they've spent quite a bit of money. So is this money going to impact further business going on from them? That's where I'd be concerned as an Arsenal fan. Because like we said, we highlighted last week, 55 or 50 million plus add-ons for Noni Madueke isn't a good usage of funds. But that remains to be seen whether Arsenal are going to actually continue to invest. Because if that is the case, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 13 million fixed according to this comment here for a 21-year-old. My personal feeling on this deal is there is some. I've read some reports on him. I've never watched him play, so I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I've seen him. He looks this." there's some good hype around him. They obviously went in for Howson as well, and I think that there's an element of Zinchenko is going to leave. So that's one less person covering the left back area. So I think they needed another defender of sorts. But I also think this is a deal that's a bit of foreshadowing for the potential exit of Saliba in the next year or two. So not every deal, and this is what I think sometimes football fans lose sight of when we're emotional and when we're angry, is not every deal is for the here and now. And you often can't operate like that. One of the things I hate the most in life is when people say, live each day like it's your last. That's just the worst advice you could ever take. Because you do that for a month, you're going to ruin your life. You're going to be unhealthy. You have no money left, and you can leave yourself in a black hole. It's I get it, the sentiment of it, right? But don't actually do it in actuality. Don't live every day like that, because you'll regret it 9 times out of 10. Trust me. The same with transfers. Not everything can be about what we need this season. What you need to do as a football club, and I want my team United to do it, is you've also got to look further down the line. And maybe this young man, if he keeps getting better and better, in a year or 2 years' time, costs you 3 times this amount of money. So you bring him in now, you nurture him into the team. And if and when Saliba looks like, I mean, Konate is going to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
That looks very likely. So will Saliba go there? Maybe they might want both. In terms of, they might want both to go to their club. But I think there's a little bit of foreshadowing there. But I do think overall, Arsenal fans are allowed to be as angry as they want. They can be as annoyed as they want. I just don't think they're having a terrible transfer window. I disagree on a subjective level with the Noni Madueke deal. I think they're paying too much for a player of his level.
Yeah.
But overall, I look at every other bit of business they've done. And and when I say I'm scoring them all 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10s, I'm not saying Norgard is as good as a Zubimendi, but the squad status and the price, I'm looking at where they fit in the pecking order. I think excellent business. And you've got Liverpool as an example. When you guys bought Endo, there was like, you were laughed at. I now look at that. That was an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 signing for the price and the role he plays in your team, because he's brilliant at what he does. And Norgard's similar for me. I even think Kepa. And I know there's this thing of, well, what if the goalie's out and he's got to play all season? Yeah, they won't be as good. But I actually think if you put all of barring Kelleher at Liverpool last year, you put any of our number 2 goalkeepers in all year, the level drops. So when people go to Arsenal, you shouldn't have Kepa because if you have to play all season, your levels drop. No one's ever said that about a backup keeper, because it's true for all of us. And I just think there's so much over scrutinizing of Arsenal's transfer window. I just feel it's and I've criticized Noni. But this deal, I think this deal is pretty good, to be fair, especially with what I read about him. This comment here says, it's all about the World Club Cup. We'll come back to that a little bit later in the... Kepa is trash, come on. Look, he's not a first-team goalkeeper. I mean, he was pretty good at Bournemouth last year, I'm not going to lie. He had a good season. He's a good backup goalkeeper. He is as good as pretty much every backup goalkeeper in the Premier League. He just is, if not better than most of them. He's not a first-team goalkeeper for a top 6 team, but he's not at Arsenal to be a first-team goalkeeper. He's there to be second. And, it's like anything. I don't know. Callum Wilson isn't good enough to lead the line for Newcastle, but he's good enough as a backup. We've got to start understanding what squads are about, as opposed to judging every player like they're a first-teamer. Come on, let's be honest about these things, man. Come on.
Yeah. It was decent for Bournemouth last year. You know what I mean? And Bournemouth had a really good season. So I think the fact that he's gone to Arsenal now and he's going to be their backup goalkeeper. Yeah, you can say if Raya goes out injured and he's not available for the whole season, it's not the same level, but you never usually have that with a backup goalkeeper. You know what I mean? It's very rare that you do. And the whole point is that they come in, fill in gaps when it's needed. But yeah, I think I'm impressed by Arsenal. I think even the Madueke deal, it is overpriced, but at the same time, sometimes you might not get every single deal done in the right way, or you might have a little bit of dissatisfaction with maybe some of the prices and stuff. Well, some of the prices this window have definitely been a little bit inflated. I know the kind of benchmark for a player to come in and improve your team has been probably around 50, 60 million. You look at Alanga, João Pedro, and Buemo, that's kind of, to bring in a player that might come in and help the team is kind of what you have to pay. But even that's out, I think it's probably worth 35 million in today's market. Madueke is probably what I would say he is.
Yeah. At the same time, again, I'm not defending that deal at all. I've criticized it. Is there much difference between Madueke and Alanga? Output-wise, last year he was better, But
I think-
overall, would you say there's a big difference in the player? One just, Newcastle just spent 55 million on him. Equally, I look at Kudus' price to Spurs, and I think that's really good value because I think he's much better than that. So there's peaks and troughs in that. There really is. But viewers, listen.